How you doing? If you caught my last video talking about the affordable housing right to first refusal that the government is going to be voting on here in Colorado soon, that video and the contents, I guess, got me thinking about another thing that I've seen in the news recently related to the real estate industry and mortgage industry and news. BlackRock, BlackRock and Blackstone actually, and Blackstone is the one that kind of brought this up. If you aren't familiar with Blackstone, they are a private equity firm that is one of the two biggest asset management companies in New York. They currently have $881 billion under management, and they're the largest private equity firm in the world. They're not to be confused with BlackRock, which is retail and fund management services. And since it isn't just dealing with private money, they are worth a lot more, and they're actually they're the largest asset manager in the world with over $10 trillion in assets under management currently. If you haven't heard anything about these companies, you should do some digging, I think, because they are sort of running our world behind the scenes, I think, in a lot of ways. They own majority stakes in pretty much every profitable business here in the US. And yeah, but I digress. So Blackstone, the private equity, one of those two companies I was just mentioning, announced last week on Tuesday that they had just raised $30.4 billion for their latest global real estate fund. They had another one that was around $20 billion back in 2019 that closed. And unlike that round of financing that they raised, which was more spread out, they're focusing more on a few different areas, sectors of the real estate industry, including logistics, rental housing, hospitality, lab, offices, and data centers, which compared to the previous one, they're cutting out traditional offices and malls that have been getting rocked due to COVID, as I'm sure you can imagine is the case these days. So the reason I bring this up is that last video I did talking about how the government is imposing or looking to impose a right of first refusal where they get the option to buy housing that is multifamily, not traditional residential real estate that is single-family homes, condos, townhomes, and multifamily units up to 4, but rather anything over 5 units. They'll get the right of first refusal to create and turn it into basically Section 8 housing or affordable housing. It makes me wonder when they're looking at having $30.4 billion to now spend, a lot of which I'm sure is going to go into residential real estate through Blackstone. Is it something that the government is considering or could do, or are they too under the thumb of big business these days to make it so that consumers, people who are actually going to live in a property as a primary residence as opposed to just turning it into an investment property, is that something we should consider, making it so that there aren't so many institutional big investors with tons of money coming from people who are already really wealthy, turning our residential homes, our opportunities to live in a single family home ourselves that we want to actually live in, into rental housing, and just over time being able to manipulate the prices of houses and make it more and more difficult for the American dream of having a home. Anyway, that's just something I was thinking about, but I'm curious what you think, what your thoughts are on Blackstone spending so much money in the residential real estate market. But let me know your thoughts.